The research lab on Kethmore was always busy. Scientists worked day and night to find ways to stop the void swarm. These alien creatures had been destroying planets across the galaxy for 3 years. Everyone knew that if they could not be stopped, all life would end. Dr. Hana was the most important scientist in the lab. She studied how different alien species could work together. Her research might save billions of lives. She was smart, dedicated, and worked 16 hours every day. Other scientists respected her, but they also feared her sharp tongue. Behind Dr. Hana, like a shadow, stood Corporal Day. He wore heavy-powered armor that made him look like a giant metal warrior. The armor was black and silver with glowing blue lights that showed it was working. His helmet covered his face completely. Most people had never seen what he looked like underneath. Day had been assigned to protect Dr. Hana 6 months ago. Since then, he had not left her side. When she worked in the lab, he stood guard at the door. When she walked through the dangerous parts of the station, he walked beside her. When enemy attacks came, he put his armored body between her and the danger. Dr. Hana never talked to Day unless she had to give him orders. "Stand there," she would say, pointing to a corner. "Move," she would command when they needed to go somewhere else. "Be quiet," she would snap if his armor made any noise. She treated him like a piece of equipment, not like a person. The other scientists thought this was strange. Most species formed friendships with their protectors. They shared stories, ate meals together, and showed respect for each other. But Dr. Hana acted like Day was just a walking weapon. "Why do you treat your guardian so coldly?" asked Dr. Yuki, another human scientist who worked in the lab next door. "He is here to do a job," Dr. Hana replied without looking up from her work. "I do not need a friend. I need protection."
As long as he can stop bullets and block attacks, he is useful. Dr. Yuki frowned.
"But he has saved your life many times. Does that not mean anything to you?" "A good shield saves lives. That is what shields are for." Dr. Hana's voice was flat and cold. "I do not thank my computer for working. I do not thank my equipment for functioning. Why should I thank him for doing his job?" The alien members of the research team found Dr. Hana's attitude puzzling. Ambassador Thex, a tall warrior from the Cathany Empire, often watched Day with interest. The Cathany valued honor and loyalty above all else. They formed deep bonds with their protectors and treated them like family. "Your human guardian fights with great skill," Thex told Dr. Hana one day after a small swarm attack. "Our warriors speak of him with respect. He moves like a true warrior, even in that heavy armor." "He moves like a machine," Dr. Hana corrected, "which is exactly what I need." Thex's large eyes blinked slowly. In Cathany culture, this showed confusion. "Do all humans treat their protectors this way?" "I cannot speak for all humans," Dr. Hana said. "I only know that I need results, not relationships." What Dr. Hana did not know was that Day heard everything she said. His armor had sensitive listening devices that picked up conversations from across the room. He heard her call him a machine. He heard her tell others that he was just equipment. He heard her say that his only value was his ability to absorb damage. Day never responded to these comments. He never showed any emotion. His helmet hid his face and his armor hid his body language. To everyone watching, he seemed like the perfect soldier, emotionless, obedient, and completely focused on his duty. But inside his armor, Day was thinking. He had not always been a bodyguard. Before the war, he had been a student studying alien cultures and languages. He had volunteered for this assignment because he believed in Dr. Hana's work. He understood how important her research was for the future of all species. When Day first arrived, he had hoped to help with more than just protection. His education had taught him about genetic research. He could read Dr. Hana's notes and understand her experiments. Sometimes he saw small mistakes or had ideas that might improve her work. But Dr. Hana had made it clear from the first day that she did not want his thoughts. She wanted his armor and his weapons, nothing else. So Day stayed silent. He stood where she told him to stand. He moved when she told him to move. He protected her from every danger, no matter how small. When enemy acid burned through his armor, he did not complain. When he went days without sleep during long attacks, he did not ask for rest. When other soldiers invited him to eat with them, he stayed with Dr. Hana instead. The other guards on the station noticed Day's dedication. "That human never leaves his post," said Lieutenant June, who protected the station commander. "Even when his shift ends, he stays with the scientist." "I heard he has not taken off his armor in weeks," added Sergeant Kira, who guarded the communications center. He sleeps standing up, eats through his helmet, and never takes breaks. Why does he work so hard for someone who treats him so badly? June wondered. The answer was something Day had never told anyone. He worked hard because he believed Dr. Hana's research could save the galaxy. He stayed close because every minute she was unprotected was a minute the enemy might kill the person who could stop them. He accepted her coldness because her work was more important than his feelings. But believing in someone's work and being treated like a tool were different things. Every day, Day felt the difference between being useful and being valued. Dr. Hana saw his armor and weapons. She never saw the man inside who had chosen to protect her, who understood her research, who cared about her success even when she did not care about him. The other aliens on the station began to understand something that Dr. Hana had missed. Humans were not just good soldiers. They were not just walking weapons. They were complex beings who could think, feel, and choose. But Dr. Hana had never bothered to learn this about the human who risked his life for her every day. As weeks passed, the tension grew. Dr. Hana's research advanced, but her relationship with her protector remained cold and distant. She gave orders, he followed them. She worked, he guarded. Neither of them spoke about anything else, but everyone could feel that something was building toward a breaking point. The question was not if it would happen, but when. The day Dr. Hana would present her research to the Galactic Council was the most important day of her career. She had worked for 2 years to develop a weapon that could destroy the Void Swarm. Today, she would show the galaxy's leaders that victory was possible. The main conference room was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Ambassador Thek sat with the other Kathni warriors, their blue skin gleaming under the bright lights. The tall, thin Vectar delegates whispered to each other in their musical language. Even the mysterious HFY had sent observers, their crystal bodies reflecting rainbows across the walls. Dr. Hana stood at the front of the room, her presentation ready. Behind her, as always, stood D in his powered armor. His helmet scanned the room constantly, watching for threats. His weapon systems were powered but hidden. To the aliens in the room, he looked like an impressive piece of human military technology. Honored delegates, Dr. Hana began. Today I will show you how we can end this war. She activated the holographic display. Images of Void Swarm creatures appeared in the air above the conference table. The aliens leaned forward with interest. These monsters had killed billions of their people. Any weapon that could stop them was worth hearing about. The swarm's strength comes from their ability to adapt, Dr. Hana explained. They change their bodies to resist our weapons. But I have found their weakness. They cannot adapt to genetic breakdown from within. She showed them her new serum. It was a clear liquid that looked harmless, but the data proved its power. When injected into Void Swarm creatures, it made their genetic structure collapse. They could not adapt to it because it attacked the very thing that made adaptation possible. The room filled with excited voices. The Kathni warriors slammed their fists on the table in approval. The Vectar began singing a victory song. Even the usually silent HFY made chiming sounds that showed their pleasure. Ambassador Thek stood up. Dr. Hana, you may have saved us all. When can we begin production? The first batch will be ready in 3 days, Dr. Hana replied with pride. We can begin field testing immediately after that. The celebration was interrupted by a loud alarm. Red lights began flashing throughout the station. A voice came over the communication system. All personnel to emergency positions. Void Swarm attack detected. Multiple breach points confirmed. The delegates began to panic. Some species were warriors, but others were diplomats who had never seen combat. The room filled with confused shouts and frightened cries. They moved instantly. His armor systems activated with a soft hum. He positioned himself between Dr. Hana and the main door, where the greatest danger would come from. His weapons powered up and his helmet began tracking multiple targets. Stay behind me, Day said to Dr. Hana. His voice through the armor's speakers was calm and steady. We will move to the secure bunker, but the attack was worse than anyone expected. The Void Swarm had learned about the conference. They had planned a coordinated assault to kill as many leaders as possible. Explosions rocked the station as the creatures broke through the outer walls. The conference room's main door exploded inward. 3 Void Swarm warriors charged through the smoke and debris. These creatures were larger than normal swarm soldiers. Their black shells gleamed with acidic slime. Their claws could cut through metal like paper. Day opened fire immediately. His armor's weapons sent bright energy beams into the attacking creatures. One fell, but the other two kept coming. They moved faster than most people could follow. The first creature reached the conference table. Its claws swept across the surface, sending chairs and equipment flying. Ambassador Thex drew his sword and charged, but the creature's tail whipped around and knocked him across the room. The second creature headed straight for Dr. Hana. Its eyes, glowing red with hunger, focused on her like she was prey. Day jumped between them, using his armored body as a shield. The creature's claws scraped across his chest plate, leaving deep scratches in the metal. Day grabbed the creature and threw it against the wall. His armor gave him the strength of 10 men. The creature hit hard but quickly recovered. It hissed angrily and prepared to attack again. While Day fought the second creature, the first one recovered from his energy blast. It was wounded but not dead. It began destroying everything in the room, looking for something important to break. Its claws swept across the walls, smashing computer terminals and research equipment. Dr. Hana watched in horror as the creature approached her research station. All of her work was stored there. 2 years of research, including the only copy of her serum formula, sat on that table. If it was destroyed, the war would continue for years longer. The research, she shouted. It is going to destroy my research. Day heard her cry. He was still fighting the second creature, but he saw what was happening. The first creature was about to destroy the most important discovery in the galaxy. Without thinking, he made a choice. Day left his defensive position. He stopped protecting Dr. Hana and dove toward the research station. His armored body slammed into the first creature just as its claws were about to sweep across the table. They crashed to the floor together, rolling away from the precious research. But leaving Dr. Hana unprotected was a mistake. The second creature, the one he had been fighting, saw its chance. It leaped toward the unguarded scientist with its claws extended. Dr. Hana screamed. At the last second, Day threw himself backward. He could not reach Dr. Hana in time, but he could put his body between her and the creature. The monster's claws raked across his back, finding a weak spot where his armor had been damaged earlier. Sparks flew as the creature's attack caused a systems failure. Day's armor shut down. The lights went out, the weapons powered off, and the strength enhancement stopped working. He collapsed to the floor, no longer protected by the technology that had made him so powerful. Fortunately, station security arrived at that moment. They had energy weapons designed specifically for fighting the Void Swarm. The remaining creatures were killed quickly, but the damage was done. The conference room was destroyed. Several delegates were wounded, and Dr. Hana's guardian lay on the floor, his armor dark and silent. As medics worked on the wounded, Dr. Hana stood over Dai's still form. Her research was safe. Her life was saved. But she was furious. "You incompetent fool," she shouted at him as medics checked his armor for damage. "Your only job is to stand there and absorb damage. I do not need a thinking soldier. I need a shield that follows orders." The room went completely quiet. Every alien in the conference room stopped what they were doing and stared at Dr. Hana. They had just watched Day save both her life and her research, and this was how she responded. "If you cannot do that simple task," Dr. Hana continued, her voice getting louder, "then you are worthless to me. A machine that breaks when I need it most is no machine at all." Ambassador Thex, despite his own injuries, pulled himself to his feet. His large eyes were wide with shock. In Cathany culture, insulting a warrior who had just saved your life was one of the worst sins possible. The medics finished their check of Day's armor. "He will be fine," one of them reported. The armor took most of the damage. He should be back on duty tomorrow. But as they helped Day to his feet, something had changed. His helmet turned toward Dr. Hana, and even though no one could see his face, everyone in the room felt the weight of his gaze. He said nothing. He just looked at her for a long moment, then walked out of the room. Dr. Hana did not realize it yet, but she had just lost more than her guardian's respect. She had lost her guardian entirely. Dr. Hana arrived at her laboratory the next morning expecting everything to be normal. She had work to do, preparing the serum for mass production. The attack yesterday had been frightening, but it was over now. She needed to focus on her research, but when she entered the lab, she stopped in shock. In the center of the room, where Day usually stood guard, there was no armored figure. Instead, the powered armor lay on the floor in perfectly organized pieces. The chest plate was here, the arm sections there, the leg pieces arranged in neat rows. Every weapon had been carefully removed and placed on her work table. Every system had been cleanly shut down. Dr. Hana stared at the empty armor for several seconds before she understood what she was seeing. Then she looked around the room frantically. "Day," she called out. "Where are you?" "Here." The voice came from behind her. Dr. Hana turned around and saw something she had never seen before. Day without his armor. He was not what she had expected. Dr. Hana had imagined him as a big, brutal-looking soldier with scars and muscles. Instead, she saw a normal-sized man with kind eyes and gentle features. He was wearing a simple military uniform, clean and neat. His hair was black and slightly messy, like he had just woken up. For the first time in 6 months, Dr. Hana was looking at Day the person, not Day the weapon. He was holding a small bag in one hand and some papers in the other. He walked to her desk and placed the papers down carefully. She could see they were official military documents. "I am resigning from your protection detail," Day said quietly. His voice was different without the armor's speakers. It was warmer, more human. Effective immediately. Dr. Hana felt confused and angry. "You cannot just leave. I am critical to the war effort. Command will assign someone else. They already have." Day picked up his service weapon from the desk and placed it next to the papers. "Your new bodyguard arrives this afternoon. Lieutenant Kwan is very qualified. His armor is newer than mine was." "Then what are you doing?" Dr. Hana demanded. "Where are you going?" "I put in for transfer to the front lines," Day explained. "They approved it this morning. I leave for Outpost Gemini in 2 hours." Dr. Hana could not believe what she was hearing. "The front lines? That is the most dangerous assignment in the war."
Why would you volunteer for that?
For the first time since she had known him, Day smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. "Because they need someone who can think." The words hit Dr. Hana like a physical blow. She remembered shouting at him yesterday, telling him she did not need a thinking soldier. She had meant it as an insult, but he was taking it as the truth. "You cannot leave," she said again, but her voice was weaker now. "We work well together." "No," Day said simply. "You work well with my armor. You never worked with me." He moved toward the door, but Dr. Hana stepped in front of him. "Wait, I do not understand. Why are you acting like this? What changed?" Day stopped and looked at her directly. His eyes were not angry or hurt. They were just empty, like he was looking at a stranger. "Nothing changed," he said. "That is the problem." "What do you mean?" "For 6 months I have protected you. I have stood between you and every danger. I have been shot, burned, and nearly killed more times than I can count. And yesterday, when I saved both your life and your research, you called me worthless." Dr. Hana opened her mouth to argue, but Day continued. "I do not need you to like me," he said. "I do not need you to be my friend. But I am a human being, not a piece of equipment. I have thoughts, feelings, and ideas. I chose to protect you because I believed in your work. But you have made it clear that my choice does not matter to you." "That is not true," Dr. Hana said, but even she could hear how weak it sounded. "When was the last time you asked me how I was doing?" Day asked. "When was the last time you said please or thank you? When was the last time you looked at my face instead of my armor?" Dr. Hana realized she could not answer any of those questions. She had never done any of those things. "I saved your research yesterday," Day continued, "because I understand how important it is. I know what those formulas mean. I know how many lives they could save, but you do not know that I understand because you never asked." "You understand my research?" Dr. Hana asked, surprised. "I have a degree in xenobiology from Seoul National University," Day said. "I specialized in interspecies genetic compatibility. I requested this assignment because I wanted to help with important scientific work." Dr. Hana stared at him. You are a scientist?" "I was. Now I am just a soldier again." Day adjusted the bag on his shoulder. "Your new guardian will not make the same mistakes I made. Lieutenant Kwan is a professional. He will follow orders exactly and never try to think for himself." "Wait," Dr. Hana said desperately. "If you are a scientist, why did you never tell me? Why did you never offer to help with the research?" "I tried to in the beginning," Day replied. "But you made it clear that you did not want my input. You wanted a guard dog, not a colleague. So I became what you wanted." Dr. Hana thought back to their first days working together. She remembered Day trying to ask questions about her work. She remembered cutting him off, telling him to focus on security instead of science. She had assumed he was just curious, not qualified. "I was wrong," she said quietly. I should have listened to you. Yes, you should have, Day agreed. But it is too late now. It does not have to be too late, Dr. Hana said. Stay, we can start over. I will treat you differently. Day shook his head. You will treat me differently until the next time you are stressed or angry or scared. Then you will go back to seeing me as equipment. I cannot live like that anymore. He walked around her toward the door. This time she did not try to stop him. Day, she called out as he reached the exit. I am sorry. He paused but did not turn around. I know you are. But being sorry and learning from your mistakes are different things. Maybe someday you will understand the difference. Then he was gone, leaving Dr. Hana alone in her laboratory with the empty pieces of armor scattered across the floor. For the first time in 6 months, Dr. Hana truly looked at those pieces. She saw the scratches from enemy claws. She saw the burn marks from acid attacks. She saw the dents from impacts that would have killed her if Day had not absorbed them with his body. Each mark told a story of Day protecting her, risking himself for her safety. And she had never even noticed them before. Dr. Hana sat down at her desk and put her head in her hands. She had spent 6 months working alongside a fellow scientist who could have helped her research. Instead, she had treated him like a tool and driven him away. Now he was going to the front lines, to the most dangerous place in the galaxy, because she had convinced him that his mind was worthless. For the first time since the war began, Dr. Hana wondered if she was really as smart as everyone said she was. Lieutenant Quan arrived that afternoon exactly as promised. He was young, eager, and his armor was the newest model available. The metal was shinier than Day's had been, and the weapon systems were more advanced. When he introduced himself to Dr. Hana, his voice through the helmet speakers was crisp and professional. Dr. Hana, I am Lieutenant Quan, your new protection specialist, he said with a sharp salute. I have reviewed your security requirements and am ready to begin my duties. Dr. Hana nodded, trying to push thoughts of Day out of her mind. Good. Your primary responsibility is to keep me safe while I work. Stay alert and follow my instructions. Understood, ma'am, Quan replied. He moved to the corner of the lab where Day used to stand and took up position. His posture was perfect, his weapons ready, his attention focused. On the surface, everything seemed normal. Dr. Hana returned to her work on the serum production, and Quan stood guard silently. But within hours, small differences began to appear. When Dr. Hana worked late into the evening, Quan stood in exactly the same position for 6 straight hours without moving. Day had always shifted his weight slightly, adjusted his stance or moved his head to scan different areas. Quan was like a statue. When Dr. Hana dropped her data pad while carrying equipment, it clattered to the floor and broke. Quan watched it happen but did not move to help. Day would have caught it before it hit the ground. When an emergency alarm went off, just a drill, Quan waited for Dr. Hana to tell him what to do. Day had always started moving toward the exit immediately, knowing the emergency procedures by heart. Why are you not moving? Dr. Hana asked during the drill. You have not ordered me to move, ma'am, Quan replied. Dr. Hana frowned. During an emergency, you should automatically begin evacuation procedures. My orders are to follow your instructions, Quan said. If you want me to act independently, please provide specific guidelines for when that is appropriate. Dr. Hana realized that Quan was doing exactly what she had always said she wanted, following orders without thinking. But somehow it felt wrong. The real problems became clear during the next Void Swarm attack. It was a small raid, just 2 creatures that had broken through the outer defenses. In the past, these minor attacks had been handled easily with Day's protection. But this time was different. When the attack alarm sounded, Quan immediately moved to Dr. Hana's side. Ma'am, please give me your instructions, he said. Protect me, Dr. Hana replied, confused by the question. Please be more specific. Should I escort you to the bunker, establish a defensive position here, or engage the enemy directly? While Quan waited for detailed orders, precious seconds ticked by. Day had never needed to ask these questions. He had known automatically what needed to be done. Escort me to the bunker, Dr. Hana decided. Quan began moving toward the door, but he stayed exactly beside Dr. Hana instead of scouting ahead. When they reached the corridor, one of the Void Swarm creatures was waiting. It charged toward them with its claws extended. Quan raised his weapons and fired, but he did not move to intercept the creature. He stayed in position beside Dr. Hana, shooting from a stationary position. His shots were accurate, but the creature kept coming. Dr. Hana realized with horror that Quan was not going to put himself between her and the enemy. He was following her order to protect her, which he interpreted as shooting threats, not blocking them with his body. At the last second, Dr. Hana threw herself sideways. The creature's claws missed her by inches, striking the wall where she had been standing. Quan finally moved then, grabbing the creature and throwing it down the hall. "Target neutralized," Quan reported. "Are you injured, ma'am?" Dr. Hana was shaking. "I almost died because you did not shield me." "You ordered me to escort you to the bunker and protect you," Quan replied. "I was protecting you by engaging the threat with ranged weapons. You did not specifically order me to use my body as a shield." Dr. Hana stared at him in disbelief. Day would never have needed that order. He would have automatically put himself in danger to keep her safe. After the attack, Dr. Hana tried to work, but she kept thinking about the differences between her two guardians. She realized that Quan was doing exactly what she had always claimed to want, following orders precisely without making independent decisions. But Day's independent thinking had actually kept her safer. The other scientists began to notice the change too. Dr. Yuki stopped by the lab the next day. "Your new guardian seems very formal," she observed, watching Quan stand motionless in the corner. "He is professional," Dr. Hana replied, but her voice lacked conviction. "Where did Day go?" Dr. Yuki asked. "I heard he transferred to the front lines." "He requested a different assignment," Dr. Hana said, not wanting to explain the real reason. Dr. Yuki frowned. "That seems strange. He seemed devoted to protecting you. The other guards always talked about how dedicated he was." Before Dr. Hana could respond, Ambassador Thex entered the lab. The tall alien looked around the room, his large eyes taking in every detail. "Dr. Hana," Thex said in his deep voice, "I wanted to ask about your previous guardian. D, I believe his name was. What about him?" Dr. Hana asked carefully. "Our warriors have been discussing his combat techniques," Thex explained. "They were very impressed by his skill and honor. They said he fought not just with strength but with wisdom. He anticipated dangers and protected what was most important, not just what was closest." Thex looked at Quan, who remained perfectly still in his corner. "This new guardian seems different. He follows orders well, but our warriors say he fights like a machine, not like a warrior with honor." Dr. Hana felt uncomfortable under Thex's gaze. "Lieutenant Quan is highly qualified." "I am sure he is," Thex agreed. "But qualifications and wisdom are not the same thing. Your previous guardian understood this difference." After Thex left, Dr. Hana could not concentrate on her work. She kept thinking about what he had said. D had fought with wisdom, not just strength. He had protected what was most important. That evening, Dr. Hana made a decision she had never made before. She accessed Day's military file on her computer. As his former charge, she had the clearance to read it. What she found shocked her. Educational background: xenobiology degree from Seoul National University, graduated with highest honors. Advanced studies in interspecies genetic compatibility. Published research on alien biological systems. Previous assignments: research assistant at the Galactic Science Institute. Cultural liaison officer for human-alien cooperation projects. Volunteer for dangerous scientific expeditions. Reasons for transfer to protection services. Requested assignment to protect important research scientists. Believes his scientific background will help him better understand what needs to be protected. Commendations: 7 citations for exceptional initiative in protecting civilian researchers and their critical work. Dr. Hana sat back in her chair, stunned. Day had not been assigned to her randomly. He had specifically asked to protect scientists because he understood the importance of their work. He had been overqualified for the job, not underqualified. The file included performance reviews from his previous commanding officers. The comments painted a picture of a soldier who was also a scholar, someone who could think strategically about protection, because he understood what he was protecting. Corporal Day shows exceptional ability to prioritize threats based on their potential impact on ongoing research projects, one review noted. He does not just protect the scientist, he protects the science itself. Another review said, Day's scientific background allows him to make split-second decisions about what equipment or data to save during emergencies. He has prevented the loss of critical research on multiple occasions. Dr. Hana realized that every time Day had made an independent decision, it had been the right one. When he saved her research instead of maintaining his defensive position, he had been thinking like a scientist, not just a soldier. He had understood that losing that data would be worse than a temporary increase in personal risk. She also found records of Day's recent assignment to Outpost Gemini. The reports were troubling. Outpost Gemini was the most dangerous posting in the entire war. It was where soldiers went when they had nothing left to lose. But the strangest thing was a note in Day's transfer request. Requesting assignment to location where independent thinking and initiative are valued and needed. Dr. Hana closed the file and put her head in her hands. She had driven away a brilliant scientist soldier who had chosen to protect her, and replaced him with someone who followed orders without understanding their purpose. For the first time since Day left, Dr. Hana admitted to herself that she had made a terrible mistake. 3 weeks after Day left, the news Dr. Hana had been dreading finally came. A message arrived through military channels, marked with the red border that meant casualties from the front lines. Dr. Hana opened it with trembling hands. Outpost Gemini suffered major void swarm assault, heavy casualties, multiple personnel missing in action, including Corporal Day. Last seen during successful evacuation of civilian research team, status unknown. Dr. Hana stared at the message for a long time. Missing in action often meant dead, especially at Outpost Gemini. The most dangerous place in the galaxy had claimed another victim, and this time it was someone she had driven away. The guilt hit her like a physical blow. Day had gone to the front lines because she had made him feel worthless. Now he might be dead because of her words. Unable to focus on work, Dr. Hana did something she had never done before. She began researching Day himself, not just his military file. She wanted to understand who he really was, not just what his job had been. She found his university records first. Day had been an excellent student, graduating at the top of his class in xenobiology. His professors had written glowing recommendations, praising his curiosity, his dedication, and his ability to understand complex alien biological systems. His senior thesis had been titled, Interspecies Genetic Compatibility Building Bridges. Between worlds, Dr. Hana downloaded it and began reading. Within the first few pages, she realized that Day's research was directly related to her own work. His understanding of alien genetics was sophisticated and insightful. More importantly, his thesis showed his deep belief that different species could work together if they understood each other better. Day had chosen to study xenobiology not for personal glory, but because he wanted to help create peace between different forms of life. Dr. Hana found herself wondering how many times Day had wanted to contribute to her research but had stayed silent because she had made it clear his thoughts were unwelcome. She dug deeper into his background. Before the war, Day had worked as a cultural liaison, helping human and alien scientists collaborate on joint projects. His supervisors praised his ability to bridge communication gaps and solve problems that occurred when different species worked together. When the war started, Day could have taken a safe assignment in the research corps. Instead, he had volunteered for protection duty. His application letter explained why. I believe the most important thing I can do for the war effort is to protect the scientists who will end it. My scientific background will help me understand what needs to be protected and why. Dr. Hana realized that Day had seen their partnership differently than she had. She had seen him as a bodyguard who happened to be assigned to her. He had seen her as a brilliant scientist whose work could save the galaxy, and himself as someone uniquely qualified to help her succeed. But the most painful discovery came when she found Day's personal journal entries, recorded during his time protecting her. Military personnel were required to log their activities, and Day had been thorough. Day 15. Dr. Hana is making excellent progress on the genetic compatibility serum. I noticed a small error in her calculations today but did not mention it. She has made it clear that she does not want my input on scientific matters. Day 32. Void swarm attack damaged the lab's secondary computer. I was able to recover most of Dr. Hana's data, but she did not seem interested in how I did it. I should focus on protection duties only. Day 67. Dr. Hana worked for 18 hours straight today. I ordered food for her twice, but she ignored it. I am concerned about her health, but she becomes angry when I try to take care of her basic needs. Day 98. I solved the problem with the contaminated samples while Dr. Hana was sleeping. I put the solution in a place where she would find it and think she had figured it out herself. It is better this way. Entry after entry showed Day quietly helping with her research, caring for her well-being, and trying to support her work in ways she had never noticed. He had been protecting more than just her body. He had been protecting her ability to do science. The final entry was from the day before he left. I cannot continue like this. I believe in Dr. Hana's work, but she has made it clear that she sees me as nothing more than a weapon. I need to find a place where I can use my mind as well as my body to help win this war. Dr. Hana closed the journal and wept. She had been working alongside someone who understood her research better than most of her colleagues, and she had never known it. Worse, she had actively discouraged him from helping. A soft knock at her lab door interrupted her thoughts. Ambassador Thex entered, his expression serious. Dr. Hana, I wanted to speak with you about the news from Outpost Gemini, Thex said. You heard about D? She asked. Our warriors at the outpost sent reports, Thex explained. They wanted us to know what happened. Dr. Hana braced herself for bad news, but Thex continued. Day led the evacuation of a research team that was trapped behind enemy lines. He had no armor, no advanced weapons, just standard equipment. But he used strategy and courage to save 15 scientists and their critical data. He saved them? Dr. Hana asked, hope rising in her chest. He saved them, Thex confirmed, but he was separated from the group during the final escape. The last anyone saw of him, he was holding off a group of void swarm creatures to give the others time to reach safety. Dr. Hana's hope faded, so he is dead. We do not know, Thex said gently. But I wanted you to understand something. Our warriors say that Day fought with great honor at the outpost. He did not fight like someone with nothing to lose. He fought like someone who believed his life had meaning. Thex paused, studying Dr. Hana's expression. They also say he spoke of you often. He told them about your research, how important it was. He never said anything bad about you, even though I treated him terribly, Dr. Hana finished. Even though you did not see his value, Thex agreed, but he never stopped believing in yours. After Thex left, Dr. Hana sat alone in her lab, looking at the empty corner where Day used to stand. She thought about all the ways he had helped her without asking for credit. She thought about how he had chosen to protect her work, even when she had rejected him as a person. She made a decision. Dr. Hana submitted a transfer request that shocked everyone who knew her. She asked to be assigned to a field research position at the front lines. Specifically, she requested assignment to the sector near Outpost Gemini. Her supervisor called her immediately. Dr. Hana, this is madness. Your work is too important to risk in the field. My work means nothing if I do not understand the people I am trying to save. Dr. Hana replied. I need to learn what I have been missing. What you have been missing? I have been treating the war like a scientific problem to be solved in a laboratory, Dr. Hana explained. But it is not just about science. It is about people, human people and alien people working together. I need to understand that before I can really help end this war. The transfer was approved reluctantly. Dr. Hana packed her research and prepared to leave the safety of the station. As she gathered her belongings, she found herself hoping that somehow, somewhere, Day was still alive. If he was, she wanted to find him. Not to apologize. Words were not enough for what she had done. Instead, she wanted to show him that she had finally learned the difference between being intelligent and being wise. She wanted to prove that she could see the person behind the armor, even when there was no armor left to hide behind. The transport, ship that carried her toward the front lines was filled with soldiers and researchers, heading to the most dangerous zones of the war. Dr. Hana sat among them, no longer a protected scientist in a safe laboratory, but a field researcher ready to face the same dangers as everyone else. For the first time in her life, Dr. Hana understood that real strength came not from standing apart from others, but from standing with them. Day had tried to teach her that lesson every day for 6 months. It had taken losing him for her to finally learn it. The war continued, but Dr. Hana was no longer fighting it alone in her lab. She was going to fight it the way Day had always fought, with both mind and heart, protecting not just the science but the people who made the science meaningful. And if she was very lucky, maybe she would have the chance to tell him that she finally understood.